Part 1, The Abduction of Cassandra. Captain Jorvik of the Tyloran harvester ship, Silent Reaper, studied the holographic display with satisfaction, his scaled fingers tracing the outline of the small frontier colony below. The settlement, nestled in a valley on the planet Helios 7, showed only minimal defense capabilities on their scanners. 42 life signs detected in the outer residential zone, Captain, reported Lieutenant Nix, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence as she processed the data. Primarily human colonists, minimal security presence. Jorvik's mouth ridges formed what passed for a smile among the Tylorans. The slave markets on Craxus Prime are paying triple for humans this cycle. Something about their adaptability making them excellent workers in the methane mines. And entertainment in the fighting pits, added Security Chief Vantix, his armored exoskeleton clicking as he approached the command console. The scarred veteran had participated in hundreds of harvesting operations across multiple star systems. Humans lack physical strength but compensate with unexpected resourcefulness. Makes for good spectacle. That's precisely why we're targeting isolated colonies, Jorvik replied, bringing up additional data on the settlement. Helios Agricultural Outpost, established 3 standard years ago. Minimal military presence, poor communication infrastructure. Perfect for our purposes. The bridge crew made sounds of agreement, the anticipation of profit margins evident in their postures. None had encountered serious resistance from humans before, just the typical screaming, begging, and futile attempts at fighting back that characterized all species when facing superior Tyloran technology. Prepare harvest drones, Jorvik ordered, rising from his command chair. Standard protocol, swift acquisition, minimal damage to merchandise, and complete stealth. We'll be gone before the nearest patrol vessel even receives a distress signal. Security Chief Vantix assembled his team in the launch bay. 20 elite Tyloran soldiers equipped with the latest in stealth technology and neural suppressors prepared for deployment. The operation proceeded according to standard procedure. 3 harvest drones descended under the cover of darkness, their cloaking fields rendering them nearly invisible against the night sky. The first 2 residences yielded 8 acquisitions, adult humans tranquilized before they could reach emergency communications. Their harvest value already covered the expedition's costs. The third dwelling, however, contained only a single heat signature. Just 1 occupant, Vantix informed his team via neural link. Likely a juvenile based on size. His second-in-command, Officer Zrel, made a satisfied clicking sound. Juveniles command higher prices. Easier to condition, less resistance to neural programming. They breached the modest dwelling with practiced precision, stun fields first, followed by acquisition specialists. The interior was unexpectedly orderly for a human residence, with minimal personal effects and a functional layout more reminiscent of military quarters than a family home. In what appeared to be a sleeping chamber, they found their target. The human couldn't have been more than 12 standard cycles old, with dark hair framing a round face. But what immediately unsettled Vantix was her posture. She sat cross-legged on her bed, not sleeping, not hiding, but seemingly waiting. "Hello," she said, her voice steady as she regarded the armed intruders. "I figured someone like you would come eventually." Officer Zrel hissed in surprise. "It speaks to us directly. Unusual behavior pattern." Vantix approached cautiously, neural disruptor ready. "Containment field," he ordered, and one of his specialists promptly established a shimmering energy barrier around the bed. The girl made no attempt to escape, instead examining the containment field with evident curiosity. "Interesting technology," she remarked, reaching out to touch the barrier. When her fingers met the energy field, she withdrew them with a small wince but then smiled. Frequency-modulated repulsion field. Efficient. Thoroughly unsettled, Vantix approached the containment field. Something was wrong. Human juveniles typically responded with extreme emotional distress when confronted by Tyloran harvesters. This one's behavior matched nothing in their extensive databases. "Identify yourself, human," he demanded. The girl tilted her head slightly. "My name is Cassandra Blackburn. What's yours? Officer Zrel made a sound between a laugh and a choke. The merchandise is requesting introductions. Unprecedented. Vantix silenced him with a gesture. Prepare for transport. Standard juvenile containment protocols. As two of his team moved to adjust the field parameters, Cassandra spoke again. You should probably leave me here and go away. My father will be very upset about this. This triggered a round of clicking laughter from the assembled Tylorans. Did you hear that? Zrel mocked. We should fear its paternal guardian. Vantix leaned closer to the containment field. And who, little human, is your paternal guardian? Cassandra shrugged slightly. My father is Admiral Julian Blackburn. He's away on a mission right now, but he always comes when I call. She raised her wrist, showing what appeared to be a simple bracelet. I activated the emergency beacon when your ships entered atmosphere. Something cold slithered down Vantix's spine. He suddenly noticed details he'd missed before. This wasn't a standard colonial dwelling for families. It was too organized, too functional. More like a safe house. Confiscate any communication devices, he ordered sharply. Zrel reached through the field with a specialized tool to remove the bracelet, but the moment he touched it, the device emitted a soft beep and a tiny red light began pulsing. Signal confirmed, said a pleasant automated voice from the bracelet. Encrypted transmission complete. For the first time since they'd entered, Cassandra's expression changed to something like amusement. Now you've done it, she said, her voice taking on a sing-song quality that somehow chilled Vantix more than any threat could. My father will be here soon. And he really doesn't like people who take what belongs to him. Aboard the Silent Reaper, Captain Jorvik was reviewing the acquisition manifest when the alert came through from the ground team. Unexpected situation with final acquisition, Vantix reported, his usually confident voice tinged with something Jorvik couldn't immediately identify. Juvenile female, approximately 12 standard cycles. Behavior patterns inconsistent with previous human encounters. Jorvik dismissed the concern with a wave of his scaled hand. Bring all acquisitions aboard. We can address anomalies once we're safely out of the system. Captain, Vantix persisted, the juvenile claims to have sent a distress signal to her paternal guardian, someone she identifies as Admiral Blackburn. Device was triggered when we attempted confiscation. Captain Jorvik's secondary breathing sacs expanded in what passed for a Tyloran laugh. A human admiral? What's he going to do, file a formal complaint with the Interstellar Coalition? We'll be in hyperspace before any response could possibly reach this sector. As the bridge crew hurried to prepare for departure, Navigation Officer Lyrex approached the command chair, data tablet in hand. Captain, I've been cross-referencing recent intelligence reports about this sector, her voice lowered, breathing sacs contracting, a sign of concern among their species. There have been incidents. Part 2, aboard the Harvester. The holding cells of the Silent Reaper hummed with the soft vibration of containment fields as Security Chief Vantix observed the recently acquired humans. Most displayed expected behavior, huddling together, some weeping quietly, others glaring with impotent rage at their captors. All except one. Cassandra Blackburn sat cross-legged in the center of her isolation cell, eyes closed, breathing steady. To the untrained observer, she might have appeared to be sleeping, but Vantix recognized the controlled stillness of someone fully aware of their surroundings. This one continues to display anomalous behavior patterns, Officer Zrel noted, mandibles clicking nervously. No fear response, no distress vocalization. Scans indicate her heart rate and stress hormones are within normal parameters. Run a full background analysis on the designation Blackburn, Vantix ordered. Cross-reference with human military records. While waiting for results, he approached Cassandra's cell. The girl opened her eyes immediately, as if she'd been waiting for him. Your ship has structural vulnerabilities in sectors 7 and 12, she said matter-of-factly. And your containment field generators rely on outdated Arcturian technology. My father says they're relatively simple to override. Vantix's exoskeleton felt suddenly too tight. What is your father's function within human military hierarchy? Cassandra tilted her head slightly. Officially, he commands the 7th Fleet Special Operations Division. Unofficially, he's what they call a problem solver. When diplomacy fails, they send my father. The intelligence officer approached with a data tablet, movements jerky with tension. Sir, preliminary results on Blackburn. There's an Admiral Julian Blackburn listed in classified human military records. Details are heavily redacted, but... He lowered his voice. His service record references involvement in the Proxima incident. Cold dread washed over Vantix. Every harvester in the galaxy knew about the Proxima incident, a thriving Tyloran outpost reduced to drifting debris in a single night. The official Imperial report blamed a catastrophic reactor malfunction, but whispers persisted of a human operative who single-handedly infiltrated the station after his sister was taken by harvesters. Sir, the intelligence officer continued, there's more. 3 missing harvester vessels in this sector all reported acquiring juveniles from remote colonies before their disappearance. Vantix's gaze snapped back to Cassandra, who watched them with those unnervingly patient eyes. We're not the hunters, he realized aloud. We're the prey. The overhead lights flickered, and the familiar hum of the ship's engines changed pitch slightly. That's my father, Cassandra said calmly. He's probably already inside your ship. He always says it's easier to disable systems from within than to waste resources on frontal assault. As if on cue, the ship-wide alert system activated, its shrill warning causing every Tyloran in the detention area to freeze. Unknown breach detected in Docking Bay 6, announced the automated security system. Internal sensors compromised. Security teams respond. Cassandra smiled for the first time since her capture. You really should have left me alone. Part 3, Admiral Blackburn's Pursuit. Admiral Julian Blackburn moved through the ventilation system of the Tyloran harvester ship with lethal grace. Decades of special operations had honed his body into a weapon, while the neural enhancements that had made him the pride of the human military augmented his already formidable abilities. But it wasn't his training or technology that drove him forward with cold precision, it was something far more primal. They had taken his daughter. The moment Cassandra's emergency beacon had activated, Julian had been in the middle of a classified briefing on Outpost Sigma 9. He'd excused himself immediately, much to the surprise of the gathered admirals and ambassadors, and departed in his personal stealth vessel before anyone could question him. As one of the most decorated officers in the fleet, he had certain privileges, including the authority to pursue personal missions without immediate oversight. His ship, the Shadow Wraith, had tracked the Tyloran vessel easily. The harvesters always followed the same pattern, quick strike, immediate retreat to safe space. Predictable. And Julian Blackburn had spent years studying their patterns, their technology, their weaknesses. Now, as he navigated the ship's internal structure, he accessed the data feed from his neural implant. The ship schematics, downloaded during his silent docking procedure, outlined the quickest route to the detention area. Life sign readings indicated approximately 63 Tyloran crew members and 14 human captives. One particular human life sign pulsed steadily on his neural display, tagged with Cassandra's unique biosignature. His daughter was calm, the specialized training they'd practiced together was serving her well. Julian paused at a junction, listening to the panicked communications flowing through the ship's network, which his implants easily intercepted and translated. Unknown intruder. Security teams to level 3. Weapons ineffective against. He smiled grimly. The Tylorans were already discovering why humans had survived despite being physically weaker than many galactic species. Adaptability. Resourcefulness. And in his case, a willingness to be more ruthless than any opponent when necessary. An access panel above the main corridor provided the perfect vantage point. Below, a squad of Tyloran security personnel moved in formation, weapons drawn. Julian calculated angles, timing, and optimal strike points in milliseconds, then dropped silently behind the last soldier in line. 5 seconds later, all 6 Tylorans lay unconscious, their neural systems temporarily overloaded by precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses from Julian's specialized gauntlets. He relieved one of them of a security access card and continued toward the detention level. 2 decks down, Captain Jorvik was rapidly losing control of his ship. Internal sensors showed systems failing across multiple sectors: environmental controls, weapons systems, internal force fields, all systematically disabled by an intruder that security teams couldn't even locate. "How is this possible?" he demanded, pounding his scaled fist on the command console. "One human infiltrator cannot overcome an entire Tyloran crew." Lieutenant Nix's voice trembled as she reported, "Sir, the intruder appears to be using our own systems against us. Security doors are sealing randomly, trapping our response teams. Life support in non-essential areas is being redirected." Jorvik's breathing sacs contracted in dawning horror. "This is not standard human military tactics." "No, Captain," came a voice from the doorway of the bridge. Every Tyloran present turned to see a human male standing calmly in the entrance, dressed in a form-fitting black combat suit with no visible weapons or armor. Despite his unimposing physical appearance, something in his stance, in the cold, calculating look in his gray eyes, froze the bridge crew in place. "This isn't military tactics," Admiral Julian Blackburn said quietly. "This is personal." Part 4, The Reckoning. Captain Jorvik had faced many dangers in his harvesting career: planetary defense systems, rival ships, even the occasional resistance from unusually organized prey species. But nothing had prepared him for the controlled fury radiating from the human now standing on his bridge. "I am Admiral Julian Blackburn of the Terran Alliance," the intruder stated, his voice unnervingly calm. "You have my daughter." 2 security officers lunged forward, energy weapons drawn. Without seeming to move, Blackburn was suddenly between them. A precise strike to neural clusters sent both Tylorans crumpling to the deck before they could fire a single shot. "Please," Blackburn said, straightening his posture, "don't make this more difficult than it needs to be." Jorvik's survival instincts warred with his pride. "How did you breach our defenses? Our shields are state-of-the-art Tyloran technology." "Your shields operate on a predictable oscillation frequency that can be matched and neutralized," Blackburn explained as if lecturing a student. "Your security protocols use encryption that my ship's AI cracked during my approach. And your crew." He gestured to the unconscious officers on the floor. "Your crew relies too heavily on physical superiority rather than tactical thinking." Lieutenant Nix inched toward the emergency weapons locker, but froze when Blackburn's gaze snapped to her. "I wouldn't," he advised quietly. "I've already locked down all weapons systems on this vessel. The emergency armaments in that locker have been rendered inert." "What do you want?" Jorvik demanded, though he already knew the answer. "Initially, just my daughter." Blackburn's expression hardened. "But after scanning your ship's database and seeing the extent of your harvesting operations, my objectives have expanded." The Admiral tapped his wrist communicator. "Cassandra? Are you safe?" "I'm fine, Dad," came the clear reply. "Security Chief Vantix is being quite cooperative now. We're releasing the other captives." "Good. Proceed to Rendezvous Point Alpha. I'll meet you there after I've finished on the bridge." Jorvik's secondary breathing sacs constricted in fear. "Finished what?" For the first time, something like emotion flickered across Blackburn's face, a cold anger that made even the hardened Tyloran captain take an involuntary step back. "The Tyloran Empire has ignored 3 formal diplomatic warnings about harvesting operations in human space," Blackburn stated. "My superiors decided a more direct message was required." He approached the main console, bypassing security with a few precise commands. "Congratulations, Captain Jorvik. You and the Silent Reaper are about to become that message." On the detention level, Cassandra was guiding the freed human captives through the corridors with a confidence that belied her age. Security Chief Vantix followed, his posture submissive, occasionally giving directions when asked. "Why aren't you afraid?" he finally asked her as they approached the emergency shuttle bay. "Even now, knowing what we intended for you?" Cassandra gave him a look that seemed far older than her 12 years. "My father taught me that fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. I decided long ago not to fear creatures like you." "You knew we would come," Vantix realized. "You were waiting for us." "Of course," Cassandra replied simply. After the third harvester disappeared, the pattern was obvious. "My father and I predicted you'd target our settlement next. I volunteered to be the bait." "You used yourself as bait?" Vantix was horrified despite himself. "Even we Tylorans wouldn't." "You Tylorans," Cassandra interrupted, "have been abducting children from frontier colonies for decades. I volunteered to help end that practice permanently." As they reached the shuttle bay, the ship's intercom activated with Admiral Blackburn's voice, "Attention all crew. This vessel is now under Terran Alliance control. You have 15 minutes to evacuate before fundamental alterations to your ship's systems begin."